For more than a century, the House of Windsor has stood at the center of global fascination. To some, it represents tradition and stability. To others, it is a dynasty surrounded by scandal, controversy, and deeply human drama. In this documentary, we explore the complete history of the Windsor family, from its unexpected birth during World War I to the modern era of relentless global media. You will see how a king shocked the world by giving up the throne for a forbidden love, how troubling connections and controversial sympathies during the rise of Nazi Germany raised serious concerns inside the British government, and how one royal marriage turned into the most famous and tragic relationship in modern history. From the abdication crisis of Edward VIII to the turbulent marriage of Charles and Diana, to the media storms that reshaped the monarchy in the 21st century. Every generation of the House of Windsor has faced moments that threatened to change the future of the crown. This is not just the story of a royal family. It is the story of power, scandal, duty, and the difficult balance between tradition and personal freedom played out under the watchful eyes of the entire world. This is the history of the House of Windsor. Before we begin, if you enjoy calm historical documentaries like this one, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like, and feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. The House of Windsor, as it is known today, was not always called that. Until 1917, Britain's royal family belonged to the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, a German dynasty that had entered the British monarchy through the marriage of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert in the 19th century. At the time, such dynastic marriages across Europe were commonplace, a matter of tradition and political alliance rather than public debate. However, the outbreak of World War I in 1914 dramatically changed perceptions. Britain found itself at war with Germany, and anti-German sentiment spread rapidly across the country. Newspapers, politicians, and ordinary citizens began to question the monarchy's German connections. Even a royal name could now feel foreign, unwelcome, and politically sensitive. King George V recognized the danger. The monarchy relied on public trust as much as ceremony, and at a time of national crisis, symbolic associations could be as damaging as real political missteps. In July 1917, George V made the decisive move to renounce all German titles held by the royal family and to adopt a new, distinctly English name, the House of Windsor. The choice of Windsor was deliberate. It evoked Windsor Castle, one of the oldest and most iconic royal residences, reinforcing continuity with English history rather than continental dynastic roots. The change also required extended family members to abandon German titles and adapt British-sounding names, a process that was not without friction or quiet discontent among relatives who valued tradition. This act was more than a simple rebranding. It was a clear signal that the monarchy would align itself with national identity and respond to public sentiment. In doing so, George V ensured the institution could weather the war while maintaining legitimacy in the eyes of the British people. The creation of the House of Windsor marked the beginning of the modern monarchy, one that had to navigate both symbolic perception and practical governance. It was a dynasty forged not in ceremony alone, but in response to the pressures of politics, public opinion, and the need to adapt to a rapidly changing world. These early decisions set a precedent. The House of Windsor would always balance personal identity, tradition, and the expectations of the public it served. In January 1936, the young and charismatic Edward VIII became king. He was widely admired for his charm and modern outlook, but his reign would prove to be one of the shortest in British history, less than a year. At the center of this crisis was his relationship with Wallis Simpson, an American socialite who was in the process of divorcing her second husband. The issue was not merely personal, it was constitutional. As the head of the Church of England, Edward was expected to uphold its teachings, which at the time forbade the remarriage of divorced persons with living spouses. A marriage to Wallis Simpson was therefore seen as incompatible with his role. The situation was complicated further by political and public pressures. Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin and members of Parliament made it clear that the government could not accept such a marriage. Newspapers fueled public debate, portraying Simpson as a threat to national stability. In addition, historical correspondence and diplomatic reports later revealed that Edward had shown a troubling sympathy for Germany and its leadership, a fact that heightened concerns about his judgment during a tense pre-war period. Edward faced a stark choice: the crown or the woman he loved. In December 1936, he made the unprecedented decision to abdicate, announcing publicly that he could not carry out his duties without Wallis by his side. His younger brother, Prince Albert, became King George VI, altering the line of succession and reshaping the monarchy for decades to come. The abdication scandal revealed the enduring tension between personal desire and public duty, a theme that would continue to define the House of Windsor. It also marked the first time in modern history that the monarchy was directly affected by intense public scrutiny and media coverage, illustrating how personal choices could have profound national consequences. Edward's abdication transformed the monarchy, forcing it to confront the delicate balance between human emotion, public expectation, and political necessity. It set a precedent. Even kings were not immune to the pressures of the public eye, and the private lives of royals could never be entirely private again. After the sudden abdication of Edward VIII, the British monarchy entered an uncertain period. The crown now passed to his younger brother, Prince Albert, who became King George VI. Unlike his brother, George VI had never expected to become king. By temperament, he was quiet, reserved, and uncomfortable with public attention. He also struggled with a severe speech impediment, which made public speaking especially difficult, a serious challenge for a monarch in an era when radio had become one of the most important ways to communicate with the public. Despite these personal difficulties, George VI accepted the role with a strong sense of responsibility. His reign began under the shadow of crisis, but it would soon face an even greater test. In 1939, the Second World War began. During the war years, the king and his wife, Queen Elizabeth, later known as the Queen Mother, became powerful symbols of national resilience. Unlike many European royal families who fled their capitals during wartime, the British royal family remained in London. Buckingham Palace itself was bombed several times during the German air raids known as the Blitz. Yet the king and queen continued to live in the city, visiting bombed neighborhoods and meeting civilians affected by the war. These actions helped rebuild public trust in the monarchy after the turmoil of the abdication crisis. The image of a royal family sharing the hardships of the nation strengthened the bond between the crown and the public. George VI's reign, though relatively short, restored stability to the House of Windsor. By the time of his death in 1952, the monarchy had regained much of its legitimacy. The next sovereign would inherit not only the crown, but also a monarchy that had learned how fragile its position could be. That successor was his daughter, Elizabeth II, whose reign would transform the Windsors into the most visible royal family in the world. When King George VI died in February 1952, the crown passed to his eldest daughter, Elizabeth, who was only 25 years old. Her accession marked the beginning of one of the longest reigns in British history. At the time, the world was changing rapidly. The British Empire was dissolving, former colonies were becoming independent, and new technologies were transforming how people received information. Television was beginning to enter millions of homes, bringing public figures closer to audiences than ever before. The coronation of Elizabeth II in 1953 became one of the first major global television events. For the first time, millions of viewers were able to watch a royal ceremony live from Westminster Abbey. The monarchy, once distant and ceremonial, was now visible in a completely new way. Throughout the following decades, Elizabeth II focused on maintaining the image of stability and continuity. Her role was largely constitutional, yet symbolically powerful. She represented a sense of permanence during periods of social and political change. But the new era of media exposure also meant that the private lives of the royal family were becoming increasingly public. The Queen's children, Charles, Anne, Andrew, and Edward, grew up under constant attention from journalists and photographers. Royal marriages, once treated as strictly personal matters within royal circles, were now watched by millions around the world. By the late 20th century, the royal family had become not only a constitutional institution, but also a global media phenomenon. This new level of visibility brought both admiration and scrutiny. The public expected tradition, dignity, and stability. Yet the personal lives of royal family members did not always follow those expectations. The most famous example of this tension would emerge in the early 1980s, when the heir to the throne entered a marriage that captured the attention of the entire world. The marriage of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer would become one of the most watched royal stories in modern history and one of the most complicated. In July 1981, the world watched as Prince Charles, heir to the British throne, married Lady Diana Spencer in a ceremony that seemed to embody the very image of a royal fairy tale. The wedding at St. Paul's Cathedral was broadcast globally, attracting hundreds of millions of viewers. Diana's youth, charm, and warmth captivated audiences, and for a moment it appeared as though the monarchy had secured a new generation of stability and public affection. Yet behind the pageantry, the marriage was troubled almost from the start. Charles's long-standing relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, known privately within royal circles, complicated his union with Diana. Diana, at only 20 years old, entered a world of strict protocol, immense public scrutiny, and personal isolation. The pressures of royal life were immediate and intense. During the 1980s, media attention to the couple intensified. Rumors of infidelity and personal tensions circulated widely. Diana struggled with depression and public perception, while Charles was increasingly seen as emotionally distant. By the late 1980s, these private difficulties had spilled into the public sphere, amplified by newspapers, television programs, and tabloid coverage. In 1982 and 1984, the births of Prince William and Prince Harry briefly reinforced the appearance of family stability. Yet the couple's private conflicts persisted. In 1992, Prime Minister John Major publicly announced their separation, an unusual move that highlighted the extraordinary public interest in the monarchy's personal affairs. Their official divorce in 1996 confirmed that even the most celebrated royal marriage could not withstand the combined pressures of duty, media, and human complexity. Tragedy struck in August 1997 when Diana died in a car crash in Paris. Her death provoked an extraordinary global response. Millions mourned publicly, leaving flowers and messages outside royal residences. The monarchy faced an unprecedented test, balancing its dignity with public grief and responding to criticism of its perceived emotional distance. The marriage of Charles and Diana revealed the evolving relationship between the House of Windsor, the media, and the public. It showed how personal decisions, even within the most private circles, could reverberate globally. The scandal, heartbreak, and enduring fascination of this period would shape the monarchy for decades to come, highlighting the fragile intersection of love, duty, and public expectation. By the early 1990s, the British royal family was facing a period that the press would later describe as one of the most turbulent in its modern history. Royal marriages that had once appeared stable were now breaking down under the pressure of public life and relentless media attention. In 1992, a year Queen Elizabeth II would later refer to as her annus horribilis, several personal crises within the royal family became public at the same time. That year, Prince Charles and Princess Diana formally separated after years of growing tension. Their private conflicts had already begun to appear in newspapers and televised interviews, transforming what had once been a carefully managed royal image into a subject of constant public discussion. Other royal marriages were also collapsing. Prince Andrew, the Queen's second son, separated from Sarah Ferguson, whose personal life soon became the focus of intense tabloid coverage. Around the same time, Princess Anne, the Queen's only daughter, divorced her first husband, Captain Mark Phillips. At the same time, the monarchy faced unexpected challenges beyond family relationships. In November 1992, a major fire broke out at Windsor Castle, damaging large sections of the historic royal residence. The event sparked a national debate about the cost of maintaining royal properties and the financial role of the monarchy within modern Britain. Together, these events created a moment of unusual vulnerability for the institution. For the first time in decades, public support for the monarchy appeared less certain. The media landscape had also changed. Tabloid newspapers, television programs, and an increasingly competitive press environment meant that royal privacy had become almost impossible to maintain. Stories that once would have remained private were now widely reported and analyzed in public. Yet despite the criticism and the controversies, the monarchy continued to adapt. Queen Elizabeth II responded by gradually allowing greater transparency in certain areas of royal life, including financial arrangements and public communication. The House of Windsor had entered an era in which tradition alone could no longer shield it from public scrutiny. By the turn of the 21st century, the British royal family had entered a world unrecognizable from the quiet corridors of Buckingham Palace decades earlier. The rise of 24-hour news channels, tabloids, and the internet transformed the monarchy from a distant ceremonial institution into a constant subject of global attention. Events that once would have remained private were now broadcast and dissected in real time. Births, weddings, public appearances, and even casual remarks could reach millions within minutes. The younger generation, including Prince William and Prince Harry, grew up under unprecedented scrutiny. Every milestone, from schooling to military service, was analyzed and reported worldwide. The monarchy's adaptation to this new media landscape was gradual but essential. In 2011, the wedding of Prince William and Catherine Middleton became a global event, demonstrating how ceremonial tradition could coexist with modern media engagement. Millions watched live broadcasts, social media discussions flourished, and the monarchy maintained both visibility and relevance. Yet increased exposure also brought intensified pressure. In 2020, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced their decision to step back from senior royal duties. Their move, followed by a widely publicized interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2021, highlighted the extraordinary strain of life under constant observation. The couple spoke openly about mental health struggles, racism, and the intrusion of media. Issues that were previously unspoken in royal discourse but had become central to public perception. This period illustrated a profound transformation. The House of Windsor was no longer insulated from public opinion or media narratives. Privacy became scarce, and every action, statement, and decision carried global consequences. Prince Andrew, Duke of York, became the focus of one of the most serious controversies to affect the modern royal family. His long-standing association with the American financier Jeffrey Epstein, who was later convicted of serious crimes involving the exploitation of young women, drew increasing public scrutiny during the late 2000s and 10s. In 2019, Andrew gave a widely discussed interview to BBC Newsnight, attempting to explain the nature of his relationship with Epstein and denying allegations made by Virginia Giuffre, who claimed she had been trafficked by Epstein and forced into encounters with powerful individuals while she was underage. Prince Andrew firmly denied these accusations. The interview was widely perceived as damaging to the reputation of the monarchy and intensified public criticism. Shortly afterward, Andrew announced that he would step back from public royal duties. In 2022, the civil lawsuit brought by Giuffre in the United States was settled out of court without any admission of liability. Around the same time, Andrew relinquished his military titles and royal patronages, marking an extraordinary moment for a senior member of the royal family. The episode became one of the most controversial chapters in the modern history of the House of Windsor, highlighting how personal associations could have far-reaching consequences for the institution itself. For more than a century, the House of Windsor has stood at the center of public fascination, a dynasty defined by tradition, power, and controversy. In September 2022, the world marked the end of an era with the death of Queen Elizabeth II, whose 70-year reign shaped the modern monarchy. Her passing closed one of the longest and most remarkable chapters in royal history. Today, under King Charles III, the story of the Windsors continues, still watched, still debated, and still unfolding before the eyes of the world. If you enjoy this documentary, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more long-form history and mystery documentaries. And let us know in the comments what you think. Which moment in the history of the House of Windsor surprised you the most?